Hi everybody, it's Erica. Today I'm going to talk to you about an article I wrote on canine conditioning and treadmill use, questions, cautions, and considerations. This article's come about because I've been having, I guess over the last year or so, I've had a lot of people start to contact me and friends call me with a lot of questions related to using treadmills for conditioning their dogs. And I find that some of the information I kept repeating to different people, and I thought it might be good to pull this information together, do a little bit more research on my own, and produce something that I can share with the broader audience. I'm going to be talking today about treadmill use. I'm talking about land treadmill use. I'm not talking about the water treadmills. And I'm also going to be talking about using treadmills for conditioning and exercising your dog. So I'm assuming we're talking about healthy dogs. I'm not going to be talking about if your dog's injured or how to use it for rehabbing your dog. So just for kind of general conditioning purposes. So that's going to be the focus of my discussion for today. I wanted to point out that I'm making this video, and I also have an article that I wrote, and this video is going to cover all the key points that are in the article, but the article doesn't have the exact same information as I'm covering right here with you right now. And what's in the video is there's some additional things that I have in this video than what's in the article. So if you're really interested in the topic, I would encourage you to both watch this and to also read the article. I also wanted to point out that I plan on making some more videos for you. I plan on writing more articles. And if you would like to get email updates and receive these as soon as I'm ready to get them out, there is a subscribe button below. And if you put your email address in there, then I'll make sure that you're the first to get anything new that's coming out. I won't spam you. I'm only looking at doing this a few times a month. But if you're interested, definitely make sure you put your email there. Also, if you have down below, I also have my website address and I also have my email address. Feel free to contact me if there's a particular topic you'd like to know about, if there's a type of presentation, an article you'd like to read, if there's a type of video you'd like me to put together for you, then just shoot me an email and let me know what you're interested in. I would be happy to do that too. So we're going to get started here. I'm going to talk about how I organize the article, and then we'll begin. So let's start out by looking at what are some considerations that you need to have before purchasing or using a treadmill with your dog. Number one, has your dog reached skeletal maturity? Has your dog's growth plates closed? And this is something that Macaulay states that treadmill use should not begin until your dog has reached skeletal maturity. And here we're talking about treadmill use like endurance work. I'm not saying that just walking on the treadmill is going to hurt your dog, but if you're really starting to build up a program, do some ongoing exercise, making this a regular part of your dog's exercising, you really want to make sure your dog has reached maturity. And different breeds and individual dogs mature at different rates, so I'm not going to tell you, at what age is best. That's something that you need to consider looking at your own individual dog, talking with your veterinarian to decide upon that. But the thing that happens here is if you're working the dog, if the dog's young, you're working the dog too hard, the dog's not conditioned, or the dog slips and has an injury, if those growth plates have not closed, there's a higher potential that if there's injury or injury to the growth plate, that you can have temporary or even permanent damage to your dog, and it might even interfere with the growth of the dog later on. So this is definitely something to consider, and also just thinking about endurance-wise and what your dog can handle and the stress on the body. So it is recommended that before you do endurance work, that your dog has reached maturity. Number two, has your dog received a physical evaluation by a veterinarian and received clearance to begin a conditioning program that incorporates treadmill use? So undiagnosed conditions can lead to skeletal and or muscular problems. For example, if your dog has patellar luxation, your dog has a degree of hip dysplasia, that working and doing endurance on the treadmill could exacerbate the problem. So if you're not aware of it, you may be working in a way that's going to possibly create issues and injury down the road to your dog. And also, use by dogs with undiagnosed heart conditions could even result in death. So things like cardiomyopathy, arrhythmias, there may be heart disease, If you're unaware of it, you put your dog on the treadmill, you're doing sprints, doing strenuous workouts, it could result in a heart attack, it could result in death with your dog. So it's really important that you're aware of the general health and condition of your dog, and you know that your dog can handle a conditioning program that's going to incorporate endurance work on the treadmill. Number 3, do you know what size treadmill to use, and is your treadmill long enough for your dog? This is probably one of the most frequent questions that I've seen. What size should I get? Can I use a human treadmill? And there are some recommendations here. Zink recommends that treadmills should be at least 2.5 times the length of the dog's body. So here we're talking about from the chest, the sternum, we're not including the tail, so go, to just where the tail starts. So 2.5 times. And if you're kind of unsure and it's kind of in between, it's recommended that you go for the longer treadmill. So it's better to be safe and go extra long than to go too short. So working a dog on a treadmill that's too short, it can lead to an unnatural gait that over time can lead to repetitive use injuries, can lead to tight, sore muscles in areas of the shoulder, the neck, the hips, and the back. And if your dog's getting tight and stiff, you get a muscular imbalance. Again, that can lead possibly to having more of a potential for injury to occur. Number 4, is your treadmill constructed so that it minimizes the chance of your dog stepping or falling off the treadmill? And this might be kind of an obvious one, but I see people using treadmills that are made for humans, and the sides of them are completely open. And it's recommended that you use sidewalls or construct sidewalls on the side to prevent injury, so your dog isn't accidentally stepping or falling off of the treadmill. So injuries, of course, can occur through tendons and ligaments or even broken bones. So this is something to consider. So next I want to talk about cautions and considerations during treadmill use. So let's say you've decided it's going to be a part of your program, you got a treadmill, and now you're getting ready to start an endurance training with your dog. It's a part of a bigger conditioning program. So what do you do? What do you need to think about when you're doing this? Number 1 is, does your conditioning program include more than just treadmill use? Trotting on a treadmill does not exercise as many muscles as trotting over the ground. So if any of you are runners and you run on the treadmill and you also do cross-country running and run out in parks and stuff, I'm sure that you'll be able to relate that you're just not getting the same type of a workout. You're not getting the lateral movement whenever you're on the treadmill compared to whenever you're running on the earth, on the ground outside. So it's not your muscles, you're not working them exactly in the same way, and you're not using all the same muscles either. So treadmills should not constitute the main method of endurance conditioning for canine athletes. Number 2, is your dog working at the right pace? So it's recommended by Zink that the trot gait is the best one to use for the treadmill, because this is the only gait that exercises both sides of the dog's body equally and requires each leg to function alone without assistance from the contralateral limb. So if any of you are involved in horses, you can relate to this. Whenever you're cantering your horse, your horse is leading always on one leg or the other, the left lead or the right lead, and the legs aren't falling exactly the same when you go into like a canter gait. So something to think about if you're doing endurance training, you're doing long distances, that if you're working in gaits other than the trot, your dog, if you're always doing that gait in that way, you're going to be having an imbalance happening. Number 3, are you giving your dog sufficient time to adapt to treadmill use? So dogs need time to acclimate and get used to working on a treadmill. You can't expect fitness and conditioning in other areas of your dog's life to immediately lead to direct adaptation to the treadmill. So an example, I'll give you another example because I'm a runner, is I can be training for a marathon, I can go out, I can run 10, 12 miles. It might be a little achy, but my body is handling it really well. And I can go run for hours. But then you can go and say, okay, Erica, go run 10 flights of stairs. And I never train on stairs. Just because I'm physically fit and I can handle the distance running doesn't mean that I can take the stairs. Now, treadmill use and running on the ground is more comparable, but it's still not exactly the same. So, for example, if I train only on the treadmill, and prepare for my marathon, trust me, I'm going to be feeling it whenever I'm out there running on land. It's not 100% perfectly flat. The ground is not moving. I'm the one that's adding the propulsion across the ground. You're just working the muscles differently, and your dog could be totally fit, have an excellent conditioning program, but if your dog's not used to working on the treadmill, you still have to allow time for the dog to adapt to that type of physical exercise. Number 4, are you allowing for a proper warm-up and cool-down? So warm-up and cool-downs, it's recommended by McCulley that they should be at least 2 to 5 minutes. I would say, from my personal experience, I have 2 Malinois. When they work, they're like at 110%. And when they're hot and when they're panting, from my dogs, personally, my dogs take more than 5 minutes. 5 minutes is not enough for them to cool down. And I have a dog that had a previous injury to a muscle, and I definitely give them more than 2 minutes to warm up. So I would say bare minimum, at least 2 to 5 minutes, but it could easily, and depending on the conditions, your environmental conditions, the condition of your dog, it could easily be more than that. But you really need to make sure that you do have that warm up and cool down period for your dog. Also, pay close attention to your dog and recognize the signs of overheating and heat stroke. And in the article below, I have a link to another presentation that I did that speaks specifically to heat stroke, the signs and symptoms of heat stroke, and how you can prevent heat stroke. So this is extremely important to know, especially if you're in a program and you do a lot of strenuous activity with your dogs, and also depending on the breed and your dog's personality. For some dogs, they're at a higher risk than others for heat stroke. Number 5, are you constantly monitoring your dog so that you know when you should or should not increase the intensity of your dog's workout? So watch for signs of distress. You want to watch your dog's breathing, the general expression, demeanor, panting, and you want to be able to know when the dog is straining, when you're starting to add additional physical stress to the body. Because you only want to increase the intensity of the workout at incremental levels when your dog's ready for it to be increased. So whenever this is happening, if your dog's handling it really well, the dog's not getting overly fatigued, you're ready to increase your program, make it more difficult, you want to make sure you only change one variable at a time. So variables, I'm talking about things that could be your environmental temperature. If your dog's used to working, in 65-degree weather, and then all of a sudden now it's a 75-degree day, that's a variable. Humidity is another variable that can affect the workout. The distance your dog is running, the incline of the treadmill, the speed of the belt. These are all different variables. So when I say only change one at a time, let's say I want my dog to run faster and I want my dog to run further. As I'm building the program, I'm not going to increase intensity and distance at the same time. So I have to pick one. If my dog's used to going for 5 minutes, do I want us to go from 5 minutes to 6 minutes and 7 minutes and maintain a relatively the same intensity? Or do I want to keep them at 5 minutes, but I'm going to increase the intensity instead? And you want to gradually start building intensity, building speed, maybe building some, changing the incline, making it more difficult. But you really want to think about only changing one variable at a time, again, so that this is going to give your dog's body the time to get conditioned and to adapt to that increase of exercise at whatever rate that you're going to be changing it. So those are some additional things to think about. So thank you, everybody. I hope this was helpful. I hope it was informative. I also hope it answered some of the questions that I think a number of you might have had. I want to remind you that if you are interested in receiving any future updates, articles or videos that I produce, then there's a subscribe button below. If you put your email address in there, you'll be the first to be notified whenever I have something new to share. Also, my website address is here, and my email address. I encourage people to contact me if there's a specific topic that you'd like me to talk about or do some research on and get some information for you. If there's any particular type of video you'd like to see or general questions, then don't hesitate to contact me. So thank you again and enjoy training, be safe, and have a good day.